I stood at Emily's grave, my fingers tracing the cold marble headstone. 23 years, and the pain still felt fresh. The roses I'd brought were bright against the gray stone, like drops of blood on snow. "I'm sorry, Em," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. I should have listened. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. I almost ignored it, but habit made me check the screen. "Abraham," my business partner James's voice crackled through the speaker. "Sorry to bother you on your cemetery visit day." "It's fine." I cleared my throat, trying to sound normal. "What's up?" "Our new hire from Germany lands in a few hours. Could you pick her up? I'm stuck in meetings all afternoon." I glanced at Emily's headstone one last time. "Sure, I can do that. Thanks, buddy." "Her name's Elsa. Flight lands at 2:30. Text me the flight details." "I'll be there." The arrivals hall buzzed with activity as I held up my hastily made sign reading Elsa. A young woman with honey blonde hair caught my eye and walked over, pulling her suitcase. Something about her movement and the way she carried herself made my heart skip a beat. "Sir?" Her accent was slight but noticeable. "I'm Elsa. Welcome to Chicago, Elsa. Please, call me Abraham." "Abraham." She smiled, and for a moment, I felt dizzy. That smile reminded me so much of something I couldn't quite pinpoint. "Shall we get your luggage?" I asked quickly, pushing the thought away. On the drive to the office, she spoke about her move from Munich and her excitement about the new job. There was something familiar about her laugh and the way her eyes crinkled at the corners. "I hope you don't mind," I said, "but the team usually does lunch together on Thursdays. Would you like to join us?" "That would be wonderful. In Germany, we say lunch makes half the work." I laughed. "We say something similar here. Time flies when you're having lunch." "That's terrible." She giggled. "I love it." At lunch, Elsa had everyone in stitches with her stories. Her sense of humor matched mine perfectly, dry, slightly dark, with perfect timing. It was uncanny. "You know," Mark from accounting said, "you two could be related." Same weird jokes. I laughed it off. She's young enough to be my daughter. Besides, my wife and I never had children. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Emily and I had wanted children so badly. Over the next few months, Elsa proved herself invaluable at work. She had my eye for detail and determination. Sometimes, watching her work reminded me so much of my late wife that my chest would tighten. "Abraham?" Elsa knocked on my office door one afternoon. "My mother's visiting from Germany next week. Would you like to join us for dinner? She's dying to meet my new American family. I mean, my boss." I smiled at her choice of words. I'd be honored. The restaurant the following weekend was quiet and elegant. Elsa's mother, Elke, was studying me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. When Elsa excused herself to the restroom, Elke's hand shot out, gripping my shoulder with surprising strength. "Don't you dare look at my daughter that way," she hissed. I jerked back. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I know everything about you, Abraham." "Everything." "I don't understand what you're talking about." "Let me tell you a story," she interrupted, her voice dropping to a whisper. Her eyes held mine, and suddenly I couldn't look away. A story about love, betrayal, and second chances. Elke leaned forward, her fingers wrapped around her wine glass. "Once, there was a woman who loved her husband more than life itself. They were young, passionate, and full of dreams. I don't see what this has to do with." "Listen," she commanded softly. This woman wanted to give her husband something special. You see, there was an old friend, someone who'd had a falling out with her husband years ago. She thought, what better gift than to heal old wounds? My heart began to pound as Elke continued. She reached out to this friend, Patrick. Remember that name, Abraham? They met in secret, planning a surprise reconciliation for her husband's birthday. The room seemed to spin. "How do you know about Patrick?" she continued as if I hadn't spoken. Then, just before the birthday celebration, she discovered something wonderful. She was pregnant. For a brief moment, everything was perfect. A baby, a reconciled friendship, a complete family. Just perfect. Her voice cracked. But then came the photographs. Her husband's sister, always so protective and jealous, brought them to him. Pictures of his wife walking with Patrick, talking, laughing, their secret meetings at the park. Everything. And instead of asking, instead of trusting the woman he claimed to love, he just... "Stop," I whispered. "He threw her out," Elka continued. "Wouldn't take her calls. Wouldn't let her explain that she'd been planning his birthday surprise, that Patrick had agreed to come to the party, to make peace after all these years." Tears were running down her face now. She tried to end it all. She wanted to just run away somewhere where nobody knew her. But her employer found her and got her help. Arranged for her to leave the country and start fresh. But the plane crashed, I finished, my voice hollow. Yes. The plane crashed. She was found with another passenger's ID, a woman named Elka who hadn't survived. Her face was unrecognizable. Required multiple surgeries to reconstruct. And all the while, she carried a child. "Your child, Abraham." "Emily?" The name came out as a broken whisper. "You're Ollie. Alive." She nodded slowly, and I saw it then. Those eyes, beneath the different face, the changed features. Those same eyes I'd fallen in love with 25 years ago. "And Elsa is your daughter." She took a shaky breath. "When she told me about her wonderful new boss in Chicago and showed me your picture, I knew I had to come. I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That history might repeat itself. That you might fall for her, not knowing who she was. The universe has a cruel sense of humor sometimes." I sat back, stunned. All these months, the similar sense of humor, the familiar gestures. Jesus Christ. I was working alongside my own daughter. "She has so much of you in her," Emily said softly. "Your determination, your creativity. Even that terrible pun habit of yours." Elsa returned to find us both silent, tears streaming down my face. Emily took her hand. "Sweetheart, we need to talk outside. There's something you need to know. Come with me." They were gone for what felt like hours. I sat there, memories flooding back, Emily's smile the day we met, our first dance, and the last terrible fight. Memories crashed over me like a boulder, and my head started to ache. When they returned, Elsa's face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She stood there, staring at me like she was seeing a ghost. "Dad?" I nodded, unable to speak. She crossed the distance between us in 3 steps and threw her arms around my neck. I held her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling 23 years of loss and love crash over me at once. "I always wondered," she whispered against my shoulder. "Mom never talked about you, but I always felt like something was missing." The weeks that followed were a blur of long conversations, shared memories, and tentative steps forward. Emily and I met for coffee, trying to bridge the gulf of years between us. "I don't expect things to go back to how they were," she said one afternoon, watching Elsa through the cafe window as she parked her car. "Too much time has passed. But maybe we can build something new, for her sake." I watched my daughter, my daughter, walk toward us, her smile brightening the room. "I was so wrong, Emily. About everything," I turned to my wife. "We both made mistakes," she said softly. "But look what we made first." She nodded toward Elsa, who was now arguing playfully with the barista about the proper way to make a cappuccino. One evening, as we sat in my backyard watching the sunset, Emily finally told me about the crash. Her voice trembled as she recounted those terrifying moments. "The plane went down over the lake," she said, her fingers tightening around her teacup. I was one of 12 survivors. When they pulled me from the water, I was barely conscious, clutching a woman named Elsa's passport. We'd been seated together, talking about our pregnancies. She was pregnant too. But she didn't make it. Emily's eyes grew distant. The doctors said it was a miracle both the baby and I survived. Third-degree burns covered most of my face and upper body. During the months of reconstructive surgery, I kept thinking about you, about how fate had given me a new face and a new chance. But I was scared, Abraham. Scared you wouldn't believe me. Scared you'd reject us again. I would have known you, I whispered. Somehow, I would have known. She smiled sadly. Would you? You worked with our daughter for months without recognizing her. The truth of her words stabbed me. I thought about all the little moments over the years, the dreams where Emily was trying to tell me something, the strange sense of familiarity when I met Elsa, and the way my heart seemed to recognize what my mind couldn't grasp. When I was strong enough, Emily continued, Elsa's family in Munich took me in. They'd lost their daughter, and I'd lost everything. We helped each other heal. They became Elsa's family too. They knew my story and kept my secret. It wasn't just my choice to make anymore. I left that conversation with a new understanding of the woman I'd thought I knew. And while our relationship would never be perfect, I knew that sometimes the truth about people isn't as clear as we think. Sometimes it takes 23 years, a twist of fate, and a daughter's laugh to help us see what was there all along. Finally, I understood something. Love isn't about perfect endings. It's about second chances and finding the courage to rebuild from the ashes of what was lost. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those ashes give birth to something even more beautiful than what came before. Write in the comments what would you have done and subscribe to our channel D-Damn Mix.